Welcome back to month 4 of Blackberry Bramble. We get to make a couple of blocks this time. There are a few flying geese, but not nearly as many as last month. Let's have some fun. As you can see here, I have cut all of the pieces that we're going to need for the month. Step 1 is going to use these along with this one and this one. If you'll note in the instructions, it says to draw a line on the back of each of those fabrics. So I'm going to be using this diagonal seam tape that I talked about last month for my blocks. However, if you're using a pencil or a marking tool to put your lines on the back of your blocks, make sure you notice that these two tell you to put your lines 2 different directions. That's so that your stripes line up correctly on the finished block. So be very careful that you are making sure that those lines are going on the correct diagonal. Step 2 has us starting out with block or square number G and our fabrics J, which are the purple ones. And we want our lines on fabric J to be going horizontally. And we're going to stitch across this diagonal on both sides. And after you trim off your 1/4 inch, you'll end up like that. And then we're going to press these open. Once those are pressed open, we're going to add the next set of J fabrics. Note that the lines are going this way, and after you've sewn your diagonal, you're going to again trim off to a 1/4 inch seam, and then you're going to press that open. So once you've got that pressed open, you can see all the lines are going the same direction. You don't need to make sure that all of these line up. I know it looks kind of funky, but in the finished quilt, all people are going to see is that the lines are all going the same direction, not that they don't necessarily, quote, line up. So you're going to make 4 of those for step number 2. For step number 3, we're going to make 4 blocks just like we did in step number 2, except this time we're going to use gray letter K fabric. So those are going to get stitched on again with your stripes going this way. And then you'll trim these off and then press these open. Once you've got those pressed open, then you can stitch on these pieces, stripes going this way, press it open. Then as you can see, all the stripes will be going the same direction. Whether it's this way or this way, either one, but they're all going the same direction. That's it for step number 3. So step 4 has us using our 4.5 inch square fabric H. Then we're going to use our fabric F and fabric T 2.5 inch squares. And those are going to go on this way. And your diagonal line will go this way. You'll stitch along that. Right sides together. Your fabric T is going up here and you're stitching along the diagonal line here. So once you've got that done, it'll look like that. And then you'll trim off these extra pieces, so you've got a 1/4 inch seam. Press those open after you've got that trimmed. Then when you press that open, your block is going to look like that. And you're going to make 16 of these for step number 4. For step number 5, we're going to be doing basically the same thing with the same T and F fabrics, but we're also going to be using the twill fabric C. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that all of your designs are upright. As in normal, you don't want some of them sideways or upside down. They all need to be facing the correct way. And then you're going to make 4 piles of 4. And then for each one, you're going to have the fabrics in different locations. So you're going to have a T here and an F on this one here. Here we're going to go T and F, then F and T and T and F. So make sure you take your time and get your pieces in the correct positions so that they all work together properly when we put them into the quilt. For step 6, we're going to be using the fabric T and fabric S squares. These we're going to be making flying geese, 8 of them. These are going to go on this way and this way. Nope, sorry, this way and this way to make our flying geese. So, first step is to stitch this one on first. Then you're going to trim that off. So you've got your 1/4 inch seam, and then we're going to press that open. So once we've got that pressed open, then we're going to take our second piece of S, and we're going to line it up on the top, and then we're going to stitch from this corner to this corner. Don't try to line up to make a point. Once you've done your stitching, it's going to make the point automatically for you. So stitch all the way from the top down to the corner. So then you will trim off. So you've got your 1/4 inch seam. We'll iron that open, and that's going to give us our flying geese block. And again, make 8 of those. As we go on to step number 7, we're going to be using the same technique as in step number 6, but we're going to be making 8 flying geese with fabric T and fabric R, here and here. We're going to be making 8 with fabric Q and fabric L, here and here. And then finally we'll be making, we'll be doing 16 with fabric Q and L, and then 16 with fabric D and N, which will go this way. So 16 of this group, 16 of this group, and 8 of this group. That will be step number 7. Now that you've got all those flying geese made, we're going to use some of those in step number 8. So for first part of step number 8, we're going to take unit number 3C, and we're going to sew it to unit number 3A. So that'll be one section. Those are 8 of those. And then we're going to take unit 3D, and stitch it to unit 3B. And we're going to do 8 of those as well. So that is going to be step number 8. Okay, so for block number 9, we're going to take the rectangles B and sew them to either side of rectangle P. And that is going to make 16 of that part of the block. Step 10 is fun. We're going to take the block that we made in step number 9, and we're going to add the S squares on the corners to make a flying geese block. Flying goose? Flying geese? I don't know. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew our black S block this way. And then we'll trim that off so that we've got our 1/4 inch seam here. And then we're going to press that open and it'll look like this. Then we're going to take our second S block and we're going to sew it on here from this corner to this corner. So that is going to look like that, stitched here to here. Then you'll trim off your excess here to give yourself your 1/4 inch seam again. Trim it here. And then once you've pressed it open, it looks like that. Very fun. You'll make 8 of those. And that is step number 10. Step 11 is going to be made the same way that step 10 was. So we're going to take our block that we did in step number 9. We're going to take our last bit of fabric, which is our R fabric in our 2.5 inch squares, and we're going to sew that to each side to make our final block here. So the first thing that we'll do is we're going to sew this side on, corner to corner. So that's how that's going to look. Then we're going to trim this off to give us our seam allowance. And then we're going to press that open. So once we've got that pressed open, we're going to take our other block, our other square of our fabric, and we're going to stitch it here to here. So once that's done, then we're going to trim this side to our 1/4 inch seam allowance here. And then we're going to press that open. And our finished piece will look like that. You're going to make 8 of those. That will finish up step number 11. We are almost there. So step number 12, we're going to take unit 6D and we're going to sew it to unit 3C. Just that way. We're going to do 8 of those. Likewise, we're going to take unit 6B and stitch unit 3D to that one and do all 8 of those. Then we'll be up to our last step. We're going to do step 13 by block because there's so many different pieces. You want to take your time and make sure you've got all the right ones. So first off, for block 4A, we're going to make 2 of these. You're going to take your unit 2A. That's going to go here and here. Make sure you've got your dark corner oriented correctly. This is unit 4A. This is unit 2B. Then we've got 7A here and 7A here, just turned opposite. In the center we've got unit 1A. And then down here we have unit 4A again. So these two are the same, just rotated set differently. These two are the same. These two are the same, just rotated differently. These two are different. Remember, we had to make sure that these were all facing up, straight up and down so that they look proper. So make sure you get the correct pieces to go here and here. This is 2B, this is 2C. So then what we're going to do is I'm going to stitch this and this seam, and then this and this, this and this. Then when I've got these rows done, then I'm going to sew the rows together. And again, we're going to do 2 of those. Here I've got my rows sewn together. So now the next step is to sew this one to this, and then this one to this, and then block number 4A is going to be finished. And here are my 2 completed block 4As, everything sewn down together. Next up is going to be block 4B, which we'll make 2 of as well. Block 4B is going to take 2 of unit 2D. That's going to be here with the darker in the lower left hand corner, and here is unit 2E that has the darker in the upper right hand corner. Then here we have 4A and 4A, just rotated the other way. Here is 2A, the darker in the lower right hand corner. Then down here we've got 2A with the darker in the upper left corner. Then here we've got unit 7A pointing in, and again 7A pointing in towards unit 1A. And we're going to sew these together the same way as we did block 4A. And again, make 2. So this is the finished block 4B, and I've got 2 of these. On to block 4C. Here are the parts for unit 4C, block 4C. So we've got unit 2A here and here. Make sure you get the dark in the correct corners. Unit 4B is here and here. Unit 7B is here and here. You've got your unit 1B in the center. And then down here is unit 2C, and here is 2B. Just make sure you've got your images pointing the right direction. And we'll stitch all of those together like we did for blocks 4A and 4B. Here is what my rows look like. Now I just have to stitch those all together to finish out my block. So here are both of my completed block 4C. On to block 4D, and that'll be it for this month. So using up the last of our units for block 4D, we've got unit 2D up here, 2E down here, then we've got unit 1B in the center, unit 4B up here and here, unit 7B here and here, and then unit 2A up here with the darker in the lower right hand corner, and 2A down here with the darker color in the upper left corner. Let's get sewing. And here are my 2 block 4Ds. So we finally made it through month 4. That was a lot. But guess what? We are halfway through the program. So I will see you next month for month number 5. Have a great day.